You know, it's so good to see us all gathered together to welcome a new year, the worst year for the Jewish people since Auschwitz just concluded. Some of you I haven't seen in a long time. Many of you came here on October 7th at night. Some of you I see every week. Some I have been coming to the synagogue your entire lives, while others are here for the very first time, having just moved to the city. I also see many of our college students or young professionals who have come back home for the holidays. And it's so great to see you. I look around and I also notice that some of the seats that had been occupied for many, many years are empty this year for the very first time. I am sure you feel the presence of your loved ones who are no longer among the living, and I pray that the memory may be a source of blessing to us all. I miss Marshall Baltuch. This is the moment in the service when he used to recline on his chair after walking the room for 3 hours with a list on his hand, just to make sure that you and me are being served appropriately and making sure we don't make many mistakes. Let me be completely honest. This sermon, it's not easy. A year has unfolded since October 7th. We have not recovered. We have not even moved on. We are still traumatized. I've spoken and interacted with hundreds of you and people abroad during these months. I recognize your pain, your anger, your fear, your anxiety, your insecurity, your doubt, and your confusion. I share exactly the same feelings. I stay here as I have the immense privilege of being a rabbi in these times, in extraordinary times in the history of the Jewish people. But I am not an expert. The second week in October, watching the different reaction of different people, I ask myself the following question. Are we still a we? Are we still a family? Are Jews in Israel and Jews in the diaspora still one? Is there a way to find out if we are still we? To explore this question, I went back to an obscure Talmudic text written 2,000 years ago in which the rabbis debated the status of a man with 2 heads. And they asked the following question 2,000 years ago. Should he wear 1 or 2 pairs of tefillin? Should he receive 1 share of inheritance or 2? Correct, Rabbi Botnik? So what the Talmudic rabbis wanted to know whether this is a single or a multiple being. And this is the test the Talmud suggested. The way to determine whether the man with 2 heads is a single entity is to pour boiling water on one of the heads. If the other head screams in pain, then the 2-headed man is a single being. If not, then there are 2 individuals unfold in one body. This painful test is called the test of peoplehood. So long as there is shared suffering, there is unity. We passed the test. We passed the test. What happened on October 7th? Using Micah Gutman's definition, October 7 left us in shock. We were struck 4 different times. First, we were shocked by the cruelty and destructive power of the diabolic Hamas. A terrorist group became our worst nightmare. The second shock came when we saw the inefficiency of the Israeli government. The army didn't work, the intelligence community didn't work, the government didn't work, everything was frozen. Where was Israel? Why did the system fail? That was the second shock. But then came the third shock. We were amazed by the bravery of the Israelis. Upon learning what was happening, hundreds took up arms and rushed to the south as quickly as possible, heroically fighting the terrorists. It was a moment of extreme courage, of risking everything for someone else. They got in the cars, went to the site where the music festival was held, just to rescue people. They came and went over and over, neutralizing terrorists who tried to infiltrate the cities. Fathers and sons fell heroically while rescuing other sons and other fathers. That's what Israel did on October 7. As we approach the first anniversary of that terrible day, we observe with admiration a hidden infrastructure in Israel, where at the top nothing worked, but from the bottom, from the spirit of Israel, we saw an incredible explosion of bravery, where each citizen wake up to volunteer. More than 300,000 Israelis scattered around the world dropped everything they were doing, not to escape a country at war, but to return to a country at war. This is the hidden instinct that when it's needed, it's there. The fourth shock is what I call the text message. Every Jew on October 7th received a text message from Jewish history. And it says the following: it's me. It's me. That's the way Jews look when they don't have a state. This is how Jews look when they don't have a state. I deeply regret for the younger generation, for the friends, and for all those who now know what they didn't know before October 7th. What we are living through is simply the latest chapter in a very old story. We know that the Babylonians threw Jewish babies from the cliffs of Jerusalem 27 years ago. We know that the ancient Romans flayed Rabbi Akiva's skin with an iron comb because he refused to stop teaching Torah. We know that they wrapped Rabbi Hananiah ben Tardion in a Torah scroll and burned him on a bed of grass. We know they placed wet wool on his chest to prolong the burning and the suffering. We know that 500 years ago, the Spaniards burned Jews at the stake if they didn't convert to Christianity. And we know that on April 28, 1903, the New York Times reported on a pogrom in Kishinev the following way, I'm quoting: "The mob was led by priests, and the cry, 'Kill the Jews,' was heard throughout the city. The Jews were taken completely by surprise and were slaughtered like sheep. The scenes of horror that accompany this massacre are indescribable. Babies were literally torn apart by the bloodthirsty mob. But nightfall, the streets were filled with corpses." New York Times, April 28, 1903. And we know that the Nazis killed 1.5 million Jewish children. And then another text message arrived on October 8. Remember who are not your friends. University elite schools, human rights organizations couldn't even find the compassion to identify with the victims, let alone condemn the perpetrators, even before Israel responded. Jews helped build America's greatest universities. We devoted ourselves to civil liberties and human rights, participating in helping to found some of America's preeminent civil rights organizations. You tell me, what business do progressives have supporting those who oppress women, gays, minorities, and Christians? How could feminist organizations with whom we marched arm in arm not condemn horrific sexual violence against Israeli women, asking for proof? What make climate activists who take time out of their days and money out of the coffers to oppose Israel as if there is some insidious intersectional connection between the evils of the Jewish state and the danger of climate change? And why do so many young Americans support Hamas, which is opposed to everything we believe in the West? Why do young adults, especially who are so acutely sensitive to the assignment of moral accountability, fail to assign moral agency to terrorists? Why treat them as passive victims, bearing no political or moral responsibility for their own action? This is not liberalism. This is a betrayal of liberalism. This is not progressive. This is regressive. They fail. I know many have made fun of signs that says LGBT for Hamas. I will never make any of this joke. Instead, I want to ask you the following. Do you really think that these people are stupid? They're not stupid. They know very well that Hamas hates gay people. They know that. They're not stupid. But that's how powerful the alliance is becoming. You and I may have an opposite side of everything else, but we can hate Jews together. And this can make us a powerful and really enduring single bloc. And that is what you see in some campuses, except, of course, that now there is a new and different way to do that, which is to hate Israel. Remember who are not your friends. And then another text message came and says, you need to know who your friends are. Jews need to learn to embrace their friends as well as identify their enemies. There are so many people of goodwill out there, so many who maybe don't agree with us on every issue, but who care about Jews, who care about Israel, or who simply recognize that anti-Semitism is a terrible thing. We need to let them know that the Jewish community appreciates them, values them, treasures them, embraces them. You can't only fight your enemies. You have to make alliances with your friends. I think that much of the world understand what a blessing we are. And as Rosh Hashanah approached, another text message popped up saying, remember the 100 sounds of the shofar. Let me explain. 100 blasts of shofar are based on the 100 cries of the mother of Sisera. Who is Sisera? His story appears in the book of Judges. He was a sworn enemy of the Jewish people. And she, the mother, is crying because her son, our worst enemy, died. And in Rosh Hashanah, one of the holiest days in our calendar, tradition reminds us through the most powerful symbol, the shofar, that we need to remember the cry of the children of our enemies. This is who we are. Can you feel the pain of Palestinian children? Of course. The loss of a child is devastating. The loss of a child transcends names and identities. This is the point that the rabbis are making. If you don't repel from the death of a child, yes, even your child's enemy, something has died inside of you. You're emotionally empty and numb. But we know that Hamas imposed on Israel a war of no choice. The only reason that 1,200 Israelis were slaughtered instead of 12,000 or 120,000 was because they were stopped. War is always awful, and it causes people to kill and innocent die and suffer. The Lebanese should have thwarted Hezbollah before Israel is compelled to respond in full force. The Houthis, living in one of the most underdeveloped countries in the world, would have been better off spending the money on education rather than thinking about how to kill us. They would have been better off. What did they expect? That Israel would not defend itself? What did they expect? That no innocent civilian will die, especially since Hamas hides behind its own population, using humans as shields? Somebody told me once, Rabbi, you cannot kill an idea. And this is true. But you know what? You can make an idea less dangerous. And then another text message arrived. Remember the heroism of Israeli mothers. Her name is Iris Chaim. She is the mother of one of the hostages who was mistakenly killed. And she recorded a message to those soldiers who were responsible. And this is what she said. I am Yotam's mother. I wanted to tell you that I love you very much, and I hug you from afar. I know that everything that happened is absolutely not your fault, and nobody's fault, except of our enemies. I want you to look after yourself and to think all the time that you are doing the best thing in the world for us. I need you healthy. Don't think that you killed the hostage deliberately. You have to look after yourself, because only that way can you look after us. At the first opportunity, this is what the mother says. You are invited to come to us, whoever wants. And we want to see you with our own eyes and hug you and tell you what you did. However hard at it is and sad, it was the right thing to do. And nobody is going to judge you or be angry, says the mother. No me, and no my husband Raviv, and no my daughter Noah, and no Yotam, may his memory be blessed. And not Tuval, Yotam's brother. We love you. And that's it. The soldiers sent her back a voice saying, we receive your message, and since then we have been able to function again. Before that, we were shut down. Oh, amazing, she replied. That's what I wanted. And with these words, she helped a nation start to heal the deepest wound. Rachel Goldberg-Polin and her husband Jonathan Polin are the parents of Hirsch, who was taken hostage on October 7 from Nova. They were persistent and omnipresent for 330 days, speaking and shouting and crying and praying on every platform in every corner of the world. Just a month ago, Rachel and Jonathan, along with many family members of hostages still trapped by Hamas, traveled to the border of Gaza to call out to the loved ones through giant speakers, crying from the deepest part of them to the deepest underground tunnels. And Rachel cried out, "It's Mama," praying her son will hear her voice, sending Hirsch Torah words, the priestly benediction of peace. And then we learned that Hirsch had been murdered by his terrorist captors, perhaps at the same moment. It's too much to bear. When I heard Rachel scream Hirsch's names, something in me broke again. Why does Hirsch's death hit so hard? Because Rachel and Jonathan did the impossible for the son, and he didn't save him. They met with the Pope and the presidents and heads of state around the world and youth groups traveling to Israel over the summer. They inspired countless others to take on a daily ritual of wearing a piece of masking tape tattooed with the day that passed since October 7. Why does Hirsch's death hit so hard? Because Jonathan and Rachel and Hirsch are you and me. They are our children, taken from our arms, from their cribs, from the kibbutzim, from the homes. Are these the only tears that have been shed? No. But they are our tears, and they have flowed with no end for 361 days. Rachel may not have been able to bring her son home physically, but her fight, her voice, her love have sparked hope and awareness in others. And we can still hear her gentle voice saying to her son, I love you, stay strong, survive. The next text message that came says, Rabbi, tell the story of the Psalm 23rd. There are so many stories from what's taken place in Israel over the last year. This is one about two individuals. One is Yossi Erskovich, an educator, musically gifted, and the other is a man by the name of Golan Vach. We know Golan from when he came to Miami after the building in Surfside collapsed, as he is in charge of the Israel Emergency National Rescue Unit. So the story that Golan Vach tells is the following. Yossi and Golan were walking in who knows where in Gaza in the middle of the night. And Golan hears Yossi humming to himself. And he asks him, what are you doing? I composed a song. And Golan asked him, teach it to me. And so he taught it to him while they are both sitting there in the dark of the night in Gaza. What's the song about? And he says, a new rendering of the age-old Hebrew words, though I walk to the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, you are with me. What Yossi Erskovich taught Golan was a new way to sing the 23rd Psalm, a psalm that truly describes Golan Vach's life. He leads Israel National Rescue Unit, which is activated in case of disaster. He has overseen responses to catastrophes not only in Israel, but in humanitarian missions around the world. His entire career has been spent in the valley of the shadow of death. Golan has seen death and destruction all over the world, but nothing compared with what he saw in the kibbutzim near Gaza. So the two of them are singing in the darkness. And this is the personification of Judaism itself. When I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil because you are with me. But that evening, Yossi Erskovich fell in battle, killed by a bomb that Hamas had planted at the entrance of one of his terror tunnels. Among the immediate mourners was Golan Vach, who found that the physical loss was aggravated by another loss. I couldn't remember the song. What upset me most, he says, Golan, was that he felt like he was cut off from Yossi completely. And at the funeral, as Golan Vach was ready to say goodbye to his friend, the song suddenly returned to him. I have it, said Golan. I remember it. So the leader of Israel National Rescue Unit rescued his friend's final composition. Sitting at the Shiva with Yossi Erskovich's children, Golan Vach sang the beloved father last song to his sons and daughters, ensuring that he will be forever remembered. Another text message kept coming, and it says to Israel, keep your reputation. Now, on Shabbat on the beach in April 6 months ago, I remember saying the following: Israelis care about no one but two reputation. They need to maintain a reputation in the West, and they need a reputation in the Middle East. And these are the two different reputations that need to be built and protected. In one word, we want the West to love us, and we need the Middle East to fear us. We need the West to love us, and we need the Middle East to fear us. When I say Middle East, I'm not referring to friends like Bahrain, Emirates, Morocco. I mean Beirut, Damascus, Tehran. I'm talking jihadist forces, Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, Hezbollah. And we want both emotions. We want love, and we need fear. We need the love of the West and the fear of the Middle East. Now, follow me. If you are an Israeli, and let's say you have to choose an emotion, which emotion will you choose? Which emotion will allow you to sleep at night? It is better to be feared by the Middle East than to be loved by the West. That's what most Israelis feel. As a Zionist, I will love to be liked by the Harvard or Columbia students. But if I have to choose between being loved by them or feared by Hezbollah, I prefer the fear of Hezbollah. The problem is that we need some level of sympathy from the West, some understanding from the West to maintain the fear in the Middle East. So let's see what happened in the last couple of days. I am not an expert, but let me try to understand, guided by Micah Goodman. Last week, after having completely neutralized the real power of Hamas, Israel decided to deal with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah has been firing non-stop day and night since October 8th, sending the following message: if Hamas doesn't wear you down, I will. But your end, Israel, is imminent. We have the power to destroy you, and we will. So here comes the metaphor. Listen. Israel is heading towards Lebanon in a car, un coche, a car. The car is the mission. The car has fuel. The fuel is credibility in the West. So remember, the West said no to Rafah, and we went to Rafah because this is where they are. The West said no to the Philadelphia corridor. We needed that, so we kept it. The West said ceasefire, and Israel said we continue the war. So the question Israel asks itself is the following: when I have to deal with Lebanon, will I still have fuel, which means credibility, or it will run out? And with the last drops of fuel, that means credibility, of the West, we deliver a mortal blow to Hezbollah. A surgical strike like never before in the human history. The hands that planned the murder of children are left without fingers. The eyes that wanted to see our end without sight. The legs that were marching towards another October 7 in the Galilee without motion. And the only injured were those using the beepers that would alert them when to kill us. We managed to infiltrate a person into the inner circle of the most wanted terrorists in the world. We managed to infiltrate the inner circle in Tehran and take them out. And the world watches with disbelief. And the fuel tank starts to refill un poquito más. A little bit more, poquito más. Un poquito más. With the support of the people of the United States of America. The sun is laughed in the face of the Shiites, and Iran looks at Hamas and Hezbollah and says, for 10 years I spent billions arming you. You had the ability to take down Haifa and Ben Gurion airport, but instead the Israeli force turned you into Haroset in 6 hours. You know what Haroset is, no? Friends, we are in very tough times. The war continues. Some of you may have a cell phone. I don't know what's going on now. But I think that we are making it clear that Israel is strong. Part of the secret of Jewish survival, explains Rabbi David Wolpe, essentially means that things start out badly and then we turn them into something good. Everything starts with the Torah. Consider slavery, which is a terrible thing. We transform it into the cornerstone of our understanding of what it means to achieve liberation, which is a good thing. Slavery is bad, liberation is good. This is a pattern. What did we do when we were expelled from Jerusalem and forced to live in Babylonia? We wrote the Talmud, which becomes the most important document of Jewish life. On Yom Kippur, we will speak about the martyrdom of the rabbis in Ele Eskera, among them Rabbi Akiva. He endured terrible tortures as he was killed. But what did he do? He recited the Shema and said, I never understood what it meant, bechol levavcha, ubechol nafshecha, ubechol meodecha, to say with all your soul, with all your might, and with all your strength until now. Which means even if God takes your life, you shall still praise God. Rabbi Akiva left a legacy of strength, of passion, and faith emerging from darkness of persecution. Anyone who attends Jewish wedding, and I attended a lot, will notice the following. The prophet Jeremiah lived to see the destruction of the temple as a catastrophe. And he said the following, I'm quoting from the Bible, Ve'avaditi me'em kol sason ve'kol simcha, kol chatan ve'kol kala. I will silence the joy and the gladness in Jerusalem of brides and groom. In other words, there will never be more. So what do we hear in every wedding when you come? Od Ishama Ve'arei Yehuda. Again, we will hear the sound of celebration of joy of the bride and the groom in the suburbs of Jerusalem. We turn catastrophe into joy. In other words, what we do is reverse the concept, because that's who we are. And all of Jewish history has been not only the attempt, but the constant transformation of darkness into light, catastrophe into hope, sadness into joy. And finally, the last text message. It's called Hope. On June 18, our first granddaughter was born. In the first minutes of her life, she met her mother and her father, then uncles and aunts, and we grandparents arrived to meet her, 5:13 in the morning, filled with emotion to welcome her. When I entered the room, I saw Henry, my son, holding the baby in his arms, resting on his chest. And on that same chest hung the necklace that said, Beyachad nenatzeach. Together we will prevail. That's the first message that our new Jewish baby was exposed to. Together we will prevail. That phrase, which so many of us carry with us in this difficult time, it's not a slogan. It's a promise. And then I understood the mystery of Jewish existence. Our babies in the first minutes of their lives are already wrapped in this message. It's as if without words she was telling us, Hineni, here I am. And here I am to tell you that we will go through this together and we will prevail. What gives me hope? Our youth gives me hope. What else gives me hope? I heard the following imaginary conversation between a Jew in America in 2024 with his great-great-grandfather. It sounded like this. You know, Zaidi, we are having a very tough time at Harvard. And Zaidi replies, there are Jews at Harvard? Yes, but there is a lot of hatred of Israel. There is an Israel? Yes, but in Congress they are discussing cutting aid to Israel. And he responds astonished, they are aiding Israel? I could go on and on and on. But you get the idea. What gives me hopes is that we are incredibly blessed. The challenges we face today are huge, but nothing compared to those our ancestors endured. Israel has faced a terrible tragedy, but imagine the tragedy when there is no Israel. So yes, this gives me hope. No matter the crushing challenges, we rise, we grow, we thrive, we create, we dance, we sing, we teach, we stand upon unshakable pillars, making of us a powerful, kind, great, and fearless and proud people. We stand for Torah, for God, and goodness. We stand with Israel in our hearts and soul. And to the younger generation, do not apologize for being Jewish. Do not apologize for being a Zionist. It's a true, profound blessing. May you all be inscribed in the book of life. Am Yisrael Chai, Shana Tova.